Losing someone is not a tragedy, it's a calculated expansion of your soul. That emptiness and betrayal you feel, it's a misunderstanding of how reality actually operates. The sleepless nights and intrusive thoughts aren't signs of weakness, they're the friction of an old version of you trying to survive. Ancient mystics saw life as flowing energy, not a series of coincidences. They knew that attachment to what leaves is the only thing prolonging your suffering. Today, we're decoding the hidden key to emotional liberation. By the end of this video, you'll see departures not as endings, but as awakenings. It's time to reclaim your peace. Life is not a series of static moments, but a fluid continuum, a river that carries all beings, all experiences, and all relationships in its current. People enter our lives like tributaries, merging briefly with our own flow, only to diverge again, continuing their journey in ways that may seem sudden, incomprehensible, or even cruel. Yet this movement is not random. Every departure, whether gentle or jarring, holds a hidden order, a subtle wisdom that asks us to reconsider the way we perceive presence, absence, and our own place within the world. When someone leaves, it is natural to feel the river slowing, as if the current itself has been disrupted. But the reality is that the river never stops. It simply rearranges itself around the spaces left behind. It is in these spaces that we begin to perceive the invisible architecture of life, the way energy flows, patterns repeat, and consciousness adjusts to the shifts that departures create. What we interpret as loss is often a realignment, a cosmic recalibration, designed not to punish us, but to refine our perception and expand our inner capacity for awareness. The human mind struggles with impermanence because it craves stability. We cling to people, objects, and patterns of behavior as though they were anchors in an unchanging reality. Yet life's most profound lessons arise precisely when these anchors are lifted, when the familiar dissolves, and we are confronted with the truth that nothing outside of ourselves is permanent. In this dissolution, there is an opportunity, a sacred opening where clarity can emerge, where the mind can observe without the distortion of expectation, and where the soul can feel its own autonomy and resilience. Each departure is a mirror. It reflects not only the transient nature of external circumstances, but also the inner structures we rely on for comfort, identity, and validation. When someone leaves, we are confronted with the fragility of attachments, the illusions we have constructed, and the hidden dependency on another's presence to feel whole. This confrontation is not meant to evoke despair, but to awaken insight. It challenges us to distinguish between what is fleeting and what is eternal, between external forms and the underlying essence that connects us to life itself. It is also essential to recognize that absence carries its own presence. The spaces left by those who depart are not voids, they are subtle containers, filled with unseen guidance, reflection, and possibility. In these empty places, one can hear the whispers of intuition, the quiet stirrings of purpose, and the latent wisdom that often goes unnoticed when life feels crowded and familiar. The departure of someone beloved can be painful, yes, but it simultaneously offers a chance to cultivate awareness that is otherwise inaccessible. Awareness of one's own inner currents, the rhythm of the universe, and the intimate dialogue between loss and transformation. The flow of life is inherently paradoxical. At the same moment that someone exits, a deeper presence begins to emerge, the presence of your own consciousness, your own capacity to navigate reality with clarity, courage, and grace. Departures push us into a liminal space, a threshold between what was and what will be, where the old patterns dissolve and the self is invited to expand. The river may feel colder, wider, or more turbulent without the familiar tributary beside it, but within this turbulence lies potential for depth, insight, and ultimately liberation. Understanding this dynamic does not lessen the ache of absence, it transforms it. Instead of viewing departure as loss alone, it can be seen as a deliberate act of life, a cosmic gesture urging growth, reflection, and inner exploration. The flow of life does not stop, it only asks that we move with it, rather than against it, embracing the impermanence of connections as a sacred rhythm that mirrors the impermanence of all existence. Each loss, then, becomes not a moment to resist, but a lesson in fluidity, an opportunity to witness the invisible forces that shape our reality, and a call to inhabit our own consciousness more fully, without relying on external permanence for our sense of wholeness. By seeing departures in this light, the mind begins to shift from fixation to observation, from attachment to awareness. The river of life continues, carrying both joy and sorrow, presence and absence, arrival and departure. And in recognizing that all currents are necessary, all departures meaningful, and all spaces pregnant with potential, we begin to heal. Not by reclaiming what is gone, but by understanding the deeper patterns that presence and absence reveal. Through this understanding, we learn that life is not diminished by departure. It is refined, clarified, and imbued with a subtle, mystical order that can only be perceived by those willing to see beyond the immediate pain. Even though it may seem like departure brings only pain, emptiness, or confusion, there is a hidden gift embedded in absence, one that is subtle, quiet, and often invisible until we slow down enough to notice it. Most people believe that when someone leaves, the only result is loss, regret, or grief. Yet paradoxically, these departures often carry a form of illumination. They compel you to confront dimensions of yourself that remain dormant while life feels safe and predictable. In the stillness left behind, truths that were obscured by constant interaction, distraction, or dependency begin to emerge. The human mind struggles to see this because the initial experience is jarring. Pain insists on attention, screaming for explanations, for closure, for answers that may never come. We chase the who, the what, the why, hoping that if we reconstruct the past, we can regain a sense of control. But the real insight lies not in reconstructing the other person or the circumstances that brought them into or out of your life, but in turning inward to observe the ripples their absence has created in your own consciousness. The void is not a void at all. It is a space of heightened awareness, a quiet sanctuary where subtle shifts in perception can unfold. When someone departs, it is easy to focus solely on the loss itself. Yet what truly matters is what emerges in the mind and heart when the familiar is removed. Strength, clarity, discernment, and a profound sense of self-awareness often arise precisely in the space that absence creates. The person who is gone leaves more than a memory. They leave an invitation. An invitation to meet yourself without distraction, to explore the contours of your own mind and emotions, and to discover reservoirs of resilience, wisdom, and insight that were previously unrecognized. The truth is that departures are teachers. They do not merely remove, they reveal. They expose the subtle entanglements and dependencies that have shaped your inner life, sometimes in ways you barely understand. We often fail to see how attachment to presence, approval, or validation can subtly dominate our experience of reality. Loss brings this into stark relief. In this sudden clarity, the illusion that fulfillment or completion must come from another is shattered, leaving space for the discovery that the source of wholeness has always resided within. Moreover, absence carries a paradoxical power. It magnifies presence. The deeper the void, the more acutely the inner self becomes perceptible. Memories and reflections transform into tools of insight rather than instruments of suffering. Each thought, each feeling, each pang of longing becomes a signal, a subtle guide pointing towards self-understanding and growth. Pain, in this context, is not simply an obstacle. It is a signal that something essential is being revealed. It is the universe's way of urging consciousness to expand, urging the soul to witness, to learn, and to awaken in a way that comfort, routine, and familiarity could never provoke. What most people miss is that the person who leaves does not remove love, joy, or connection. They change its form. Physical absence does not negate the impact of shared experience, nor does it erase the lessons embedded in those interactions. Instead, departure transforms what was tangible into something more subtle, a quiet reflection, a whispered insight, a gentle reminder of impermanence and the dynamic nature of existence. The presence of absence becomes a catalyst, one that demands introspection, patience, and the courage to inhabit spaces of uncertainty without grasping or resisting. It is here, in this liminal zone, that growth occurs. The mind begins to loosen its habitual need for external validation. The heart learns to hold affection and memory without clinging, and the spirit awakens to the subtle dance between attachment and freedom. Departures are not just events, they are processes of revelation, invitations to evolve beyond the limitations imposed by dependence, expectation, or fear. The absence is not empty, it is pregnant with potential, waiting for consciousness to recognize its value and integrate its lessons. By embracing the unexpected gift of letting go, you shift the entire framework of experience. Pain becomes not just a reaction, but a doorway. Absence is not merely emptiness, but a signal that deeper insight is available. What seems like an ending is, in truth, the beginning of a more expansive perception, a subtle invitation from life to witness the invisible currents that guide relationships, consciousness, and the unfolding of your own soul. The act of losing someone when understood is not a diminishment. It is an awakening, a paradoxical blessing that pushes you into a fuller, richer, and more conscious engagement with your own existence. At the heart of every departure lies a profound, unshakable truth. No external presence can complete or define you. The people who come into our lives, no matter how significant, are not the source of our wholeness. They are mirrors, catalysts, and co-creators along the journey. When someone leaves, the instinct is often to resist, to chase, to cling, or to reconstruct what once existed. But the deeper insight, the core metaphysical revelation, is that the completion we seek has never been outside ourselves. It has always been within, patiently waiting for recognition. The pain you feel when someone exits is not a flaw or a failure. It is a reflection of attachment and the illusion of control. It is a signal that your sense of identity, your emotional stability, or your perception of love has been intertwined too tightly with another person. This is not a condemnation, it is a divine message. Life, through absence, teaches that reliance on the external for inner equilibrium is fragile and transient. The departure becomes a mirror, revealing the internal structures that need attention, healing, and realignment. Understanding this truth requires a radical shift in perception. Rather than viewing departure as a subtraction, you begin to see it as a multiplication of awareness. The person who leaves does not diminish your life, they illuminate it. Their absence draws attention to aspects of your being that were dormant or overshadowed by the dynamics of the relationship. Strength, self-awareness, clarity, and a deeper connection to your own consciousness emerge, not despite the absence, but because of it. In this light, grief and sorrow are not obstacles to transcendence, they are instruments of it, subtle yet powerful. The universe operates on impermanence and flow. Nothing outside of you is permanent, and the only constant is the evolution of your own consciousness. Departures are part of this natural rhythm. The emotional turbulence that follows is not meaningless, it is the energy of transformation in motion. Each wave of longing, each pang of memory, each whisper of what once was, is a signal to turn inward, to observe the contours of your own psyche, and to recognize the infinite layers of selfhood that exist beyond attachment. This insight changes the way you relate not only to loss, but to all of life. You begin to see that people are never truly lost. They have transformed, and in that transformation lies a reflection of your own potential. The departure serves as a portal, showing the transient nature of all forms, the impermanence of identity, and the boundless continuity of consciousness. You start to understand that love, connection, and fulfillment are not confined to shared presence. They exist as energies within you, waiting to be accessed, cultivated, and expanded independently of circumstance. Healing, then, is not about reclaiming the past, it is about awakening to the eternal presence that resides in the present moment. It is about learning to inhabit your own consciousness fully, without depending on others to validate your worth or your reality. The departure of someone beloved is not a loss of love. It is an unveiling of a deeper, subtler dimension of existence, an invitation to recognize that the core of life, the true essence of connection, and the foundation of fulfillment are internal and sovereign. When this insight is realized, the perception of absence shifts entirely. What was once experienced as emptiness transforms into a space of immense possibility. Memories, interactions, and experiences become sacred tools, offering guidance, reflection, and understanding. Pain itself becomes a teacher, revealing attachment, expectation, and the transient nature of all forms. The departure, paradoxically, becomes a profound act of liberation, a mystical gesture that pushes consciousness to expand beyond the limited horizon of dependency and fear. Ultimately, the deepest truth is this: departures are not endings, they are awakenings. The person who leaves your life is not taking away something essential, they are facilitating a journey inward, toward clarity, strength, and self-realization. In the absence, the soul discovers its own depth. In the silence, consciousness recognizes its own power. And in the pain, the mind uncovers the subtle, enduring wisdom that all external forms are fleeting, but the essence of self, awareness, and love is eternal, infinite, and unbound. This realization is transformative. It turns grief into insight, longing into understanding, and absence into presence. It reframes life itself as a conscious, flowing process where departures are not tragedies, but sacred moments of initiation, where the soul is invited to remember its own completeness, its own sovereignty, and its ability to evolve unhindered by external circumstance. You may be sitting alone, scrolling through old messages or memories, feeling the weight of absence pressing against your chest. Perhaps a quiet ache lingers, reminding you of what was lost. These feelings are not a weakness, they are the soul signaling that an internal transformation is underway. It's easy to think no one sees the depth of your experience, but this turbulence is not a private failure, it is a universal rhythm of being. Your grief is real, your emptiness valid, and this ache is a doorway to insight, resilience, and self-awareness. In these quiet moments, when the world feels distant and the person you miss is gone, you have a rare opportunity to meet yourself without distraction and explore your inner landscape in a way presence often obscures. The silence left behind is not empty. It carries subtle messages, reflections, and guidance. It reveals your boundaries, your capacity for love, and the hidden strength that emerges when comfort and dependency are stripped away. Feeling seen here begins with self-recognition, observing grief without judgment, honoring the depth of attachment, and acknowledging your own journey. This creates a sacred inner dialogue where independence, resilience, and sovereignty grow. The magic of absence lies in the clarity it brings. Presence and absence are not opposites, they are complementary. The person who is gone remains as reflection, energy, and subtle teaching. The void becomes a mirror revealing capacities for love, empathy, discernment, and courage. Over time, longing transforms. Memories carry wisdom, absence becomes a teacher, and you begin to perceive that the space opened by departure allows your essence to emerge more fully, free, undistracted, and unbound. This is the mystical experience of personal connection to absence. Your emotions are sacred, your inner world meaningful, and your capacity for growth and awareness infinite. You are seen not by another, but by yourself. The heart learns to hold love without attachment, to honor memory without clinging, and to inhabit the present fully, even in the shadow of absence. In this space, you are no longer alone. You are aligned with your own being. You feel seen, held, and recognized by the consciousness that has always existed within you. Healing begins not by reclaiming another, but by reclaiming yourself, your awareness, and the luminous essence of your own soul. Look inward. In the quiet spaces where absence reverberates, ask, what am I meant to discover about myself now? This is not about rushing to fill the void, but about tuning into the subtle energies that the departure has revealed. Meditation, reflection, and conscious awareness become your tools. Let the memory of what was guide you toward what can be, toward a life shaped not by fear of loss, but by an awakened sense of purpose and inner completeness. Healing is less about changing the past and more about expanding your consciousness to inhabit the present fully, welcoming the mystery of what is yet to come. Departures leave echoes, and in those echoes lies profound wisdom. The absence you feel is a teacher, the void a sanctuary, and the silence a reminder that life moves in cycles far larger than our limited perception. By embracing impermanence, you learn that love, connection, and growth are not contingent upon presence alone. They exist as forces within you, independent of circumstance. What remains is your conscious choice to carry forward the lessons, the joy, and the insight gained from what was, while remaining open to what the universe will continue to reveal. The final truth is simple, yet powerful. What leaves you is not gone. It transforms, and through that transformation, so do you.